Hello, I'm Deborah Malone, founder of The Internationalist and host of Internationalist Marketing TV. Today's guests are Gabrielle Côté and Alexandra Cloutier, both of Touché, the Omnicom Media Group agency in Montreal. Well, Gabrielle, Alex, I am so delighted to have you here today, and I'm of course it's summer, and we can't wait to talk about bugs. But welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to see both of you.
Thanks. It's a pleasure for us to be here.
Yeah, I can wait to talk about bugs out before in the summer. Yeah, we all want to talk about bugs some more.
All right. Well, listen, if all we want to do is talk about bugs, then I think we better get at it then, right? Let me just start a little bit at the beginning in that Wilson is Canada's top insect repellent brand, but it has a competitor close at its heels. Now, your role as Touché, the agency, was to find a truly innovative approach to disrupt the entire category, as well as, of course, maintain sales, given all the uncertainty of what could have been another COVID year. So would you walk through how you approached finding such an idea?
Yeah, sure. So it was collective work for sure. Many people were implicated in this, but what's interesting about how we found this idea is it was initially during the pitch process for this client. So we were pitching new business with Premier Tech, and we had to bring to the forefront ideas for all of their brands, and one of them was Wilson. And the big idea we came with Bugs Out campaign was the one that was presented during the pitch. So it is pretty rare that a pitch proposal is a campaign afterwards, but it was the case for our campaign Bugs Out. The idea mainly came through, I would say, well, research, but also brainstormings on insights, basically on the relationship people have with bugs. So bugs is gross for sure. Everyone find it gross, but what's worst about them, about those bugs, is the fact that, yeah, they're gross, but they're unpredictable and they invade your personal space without your personal consent. It's without consent, you have them in your personal space. So the key idea was there. We wanted to get to know how we could help people predict the unpredictable and, yeah, be of help. And that's where it all fell from, I would say.
Well, Gabrielle, I'm not sure that I've ever heard anyone talk too much about bugs in personal space, but I will never forget that now. And I will.
Personal space means yes. Your home.
Yes, no, of course, but I am someone who mosquitoes love, so I feel that they're in my personal space all the time. But you mentioned something very interesting because it sounds like a big part of your strategy was making sure that Wilson's products were top of mind before consumers even realized they needed some kind of insecticide. So I realize this is as a very complex campaign, a very complex initiative, and you did some tremendous work on it. But if this is the right place to start talking about that extraordinary data ecosystem that really became a key element of building consumer trust, we'd love to hear about that, because anything data rich now is so important to every kind of marketer.
That's a good point. That was really the main difficulties, main challenge that we face. How can we make that happen? How can we access data? So how we did it is, first of all, we focused on the data that had impact on insect, on why we have bugs in our personal space, why that happens, and that is owned by the client's data. They are the product experts on what helps or doesn't help bugs. So we start with our Wilson experts, so we talk to them, knowing what are the different variables that have the biggest impact. It came down to basically 2 points, location and weather, or specific time of the year. So our partner that we have in Canada that had a great impact on the day-to-day. So Canadians love to talk about weather. Their weather network has the most precise data in terms of location because of their app, but also in terms of weather makes total sense. And they are the fourth most trusted brand in Canada. So they are a lovable brand that everyone uses on a daily basis. So it became quite a natural collaboration with them, knowing that we need your data and our data to make it work. So we worked with them end in end into finding what are the different data points that we can use that they have on ends and the point that we want to activate towards to. And that helped build the contextual media presence that we did into our campaign. So context, location, and the basic needs of the user that we were reaching. And to be useful, because it was not them in your face, you're looking at the weather, you're seeing that it's a more precise weather for ants, for example, or you're in a neighborhood that has ants, how can we help you have the right product beforehand. So being that useful helper within the process, make that trust with the consumer, and we think that help create the association with the Wilson product.
Well, I do have a couple more questions about the campaign for you, but I do have a burning question about weather. Just for a moment, I know that you mentioned that location was important, as well as weather and the time of the year. But I think you get a little bit of snow in Canada, and I'm not sure that snow, cold weather is as conducive to bugs. So I'm assuming that this was largely a campaign for spring and summer.
Exactly, but what we have in the first colder month is mouse and rats, which is also a product that is covered by Wilson. So yeah, the campaign ran mostly in spring and in fall, where it was the last trigger that we can use in terms of helping Canadians.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Although I'm not sure I would want either mice or rats in my personal space. I think I'll take the mosquitoes. But back to this, because again, it was quite a sophisticated program. Would you describe? I believe you had a 3-step strategy to connect media channels with various data points, so that the communications would be as relevant as possible to the consumer. Do you want to take that, Gabrielle? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. So as Alex explained a little bit here in the previous question, step 1 was really gathering all the data. So with the experts, with the weather network. So that was our first step. It was a pretty long step. It looks easy, but it was a hard one. Making sure that all the references were accurate and credible. Then our step 2 was nothing less than creating your first to market audience targeting. So we called it FSA, reverse FSA extension targeting. It was based on search behaviors and the level of activity related to some specific FSAs, where we activated specific programmatic ads suggested to consumers based on the activity in their FSAs to prepare them by buying the specific Wilson products beforehand that they see those insects in their houses. And then step 3 was complementary to step 2. We capitalized on building the strong partnership Alex explained with the weather network. And developed a prospecting tactic that would connect with the data points, the humidity, the weather, the geography, and would activate programmatic customized ads based on the level of infestation. So it would be based on the, how do you call it? The bug report. The bug report. Yeah, the bug report already exists on the weather network, but we upgraded it and took like the codes, the creative codes of that bug report, and integrated it in our creatives. So we would alert people that they would have a higher risk of infestation of one or another bug in their region. yeah, so with those strategic tactics, we were able to help consumers predict the unpredictable. We feel that we were able to do that.
No, that's quite extraordinary. And from what I understand, is that the actual message combinations that you describe, when you start integrating the different data points, whether it's issues like humidity or infestations or bugs, the predictability or and so on, were actually limitless in terms of what could be created. And this actually happened in real time. Is that correct?
We can almost say that it was limitless. So there was multiple weather trigger that we used. So we called humidity, temperature, the FSAs, and the date or time of the year. And that was matched with the right Wilson product. So there's a lot of product, there's a lot of different weather variables. So this comes into play into creating those multiple different creative. There was also multiple formats and the level of intensity of the variable. So if it's a little more humid than normal, then maybe it's slow. But if it's on high alert, then it's 3 or more different iteration. So we delivered more than 1 million customized ads in Canada, and they happen all in real time.
That's extraordinary, and all due to the wonders of programmatic, no doubt. Although I think we need an advanced degree to maybe understand how that all can happen so quickly. And I'm sure one of the things that you didn't mention is that you probably also had to vary it by type of insect. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that all happened. Now what about search? How did search factor into all of this? Because it sounds like you were pushing so much out based on the weather data. Then did you have a mechanism to also vary search?
Our main strategy was based more on maybe a push than a pull initiative. So we want to maybe stir away. We had some search integration, but from the main idea, because we didn't want people to search for bugs and be retargeted by initially the right product, because it's a little too late from the insight that we found out in how we based our strategy. But search came into play in the first portion of our insight and planning process, because this is how we understand how consumer behavior acts out when there's an infestation. What are they looking for? They're not looking for something specific. They're looking for maybe anxious-driven keywords. So they are in a state of mind. They don't know what that bug looks like. It's scary. They need something fast. So what is closer to me, or what's open at the time, because I want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So it helped us just determine we should reach them in advance, because they will be much more receptive in terms of message, in terms of branding, and that they need help identifying that specific bug.
All right. So it sounds like identification was important. There's a lot of factors. There's a lot of factors. Well, you also talk a lot about how this campaign is really solutions driven. And I realize that's largely due to your reliance on data. So here's a little bit more of a philosophical question, if you don't mind. Would you say that data is really now the magic bullet, in making advertising relevant and effective? Or was the Wilson's example more of a unique case, given that most consumers lack knowledge about insects? So what would you say, that Wilson's was unique, or that data is at the heart of everything we do now?
Well, I would love to say that we were that unique, but it's not the case. Yeah, I think, as you said, data is at the center of everything nowadays in our discipline, I would say, in the media discipline for sure. It is integrated in our strategic planning cycles. It is also a great way to achieve solutions that never existed. So innovate based on insights we find, like the example of Wilson. But for sure, I couldn't say that we are an isolated case. It's a great campaign based on data creativity, but we will see other great campaigns because it is, like you said, really becoming the center of our work and of marketing nowadays. What was, if I can add, what was different about our campaign is that, well, not different, but why data was as important as it is. It's the fact that we wanted to change a behavior and we needed like a credible wow effect. And the credible part of it was that data allowed us to achieve that wow effect, but with a basis of credibility.
Now that's a very important point. And I think that, some things never change, and, getting consumers to trust you, and, providing a product that works and driving sales, those are essentials that never go away. But you also said something just a second ago that I found quite interesting as you were talking about data, and you were talking about kind of the breakthrough innovation that, or even the solutions that it affords. So look, I realize this is a digital first campaign. And do you actually think that our digital world has created these new levels of innovation and opportunities for brands that just didn't exist before?
It should create, I think, more insight, more research, more data point that we can have access to. Which we were talking about search. Maybe we wouldn't have that information a couple of years back on understanding the consumer with data modeling, new data that we have access to, new technology that enables creativity. But at the end of the day, I think that great data can be used on a digital portion or can be also used on traditional media. We saw a great campaign in the past years where they use it for out of home, for example, activation. So bridging the gap between traditional and digital, I think we should not see them as a black and white world, but how it can implement or enrich everything that we do in our media presence.
No, that's a very interesting answer. Well, okay, look, every campaign has its challenges. So can you tell us any that you faced, or maybe some surprises? And I'm wondering if some of them actually involve bugs.
They don't. But yeah, well, the main challenge, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the biggest challenge was just to make possible an idea that was pitched without a solution. So when you pitch something to a client, well, for sure, you think about, will it be possible? You won't present something that's impossible, but you don't necessarily have the solution yet. So that's what happened with this campaign. We had a great idea on paper, and then we had to work really hard, be stubborn, strong-minded, data-focused, and to make it possible. So I would say, yeah, that was our biggest challenge, just to execute that creative idea at the start. Yeah.
Well, you obviously did it very well. I'm just curious, how long did it take to prepare and organize a program like that? Because I know you had to worry about the seasonality, of making sure you were ready to go in time for, dare I say, bug season. But how long does something like this take, particularly since it was an idea in search of a solution?
I would say take quite some time because there's a lot of people that were involved into it. It took about 3 to 4 months. So coming back after Christmas break, we were working on it. And it was really a team effort. We needed clients' implication to find a variable, connect us to expert, be just willing to go forward with it as well. Our great partnership with the Weather Network, they grant us access to data. We had access to meteorologists, data scientists. We had production that was built into play, and also a lot of internal departments that work on it to make it happen. When we say make it happen, digital, there was the strategy team, there was a lot of people, marketing science that helped us just make sure that it was all feasible and we were able to go to the finish line, and also know and analyze what we have done. And I think the biggest part was to see how we can make the idea work, so access to multiple data by different experts, determine API, feed, creative feed, and activation to do that 1 million creative that was delivered.
I mean, it's extraordinary to me. You said 3 or 4 months, but to do all that, that doesn't seem like very much time. I mean, nobody must have slept.
Usually campaigns, it's about a month of planning and
Wow.
execution. So 4 months is long.
Wow. Well, it's still amazingly impressive, but it does give people an idea of what is possible, even when you start, you know, as they say, with a blank slate and try to figure it out. What about results? Can you share some of them, both in terms of sales and maybe some changes in perception?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of sale, we saw an increase of 2.5%. It's big for that industry because it's quite stable year over year. So we've saw the positive increase into our annual sales. In terms of consideration, we can talk in terms of engagement. So we outperformed the benchmark into creative engagement. I think CTR for banners are 0.12%. We have 0.75. Some of them went to 2.22%. So really tripled the normal engagement rate that we would have seen. So we felt that users were interested and were really, they felt confident, they felt interested, reassured, and they clicked on it and they made sure to get the correct information. This was not all a KPI, but we found it really interesting that it still engaged a lot of Canadian into what we were aiming to do.
I just want to know what bug was the most popular.
We tried not to look too much like creative with the rats and the mosquitoes, and we're like, you know, that could be more sexy, but
I think it was ants. I'm not sure I remember, but I think it was ants.
Well, it's fine. I thought that maybe some big, ugly, unknown bug was the star of the show. You know, you never know. No, just say
basic one.
the basic ones. Okay, well, let me just repeat that again. I know Alex used it went all across Canada, and what was the sales growth, which was high for the category?
2.5, yeah.
2.5, that's what I thought. So yeah, but I know that each share point probably in a category like this is huge. So congratulations on creating a lot of conversations, as well as setting out to do what you promised, and that's to deliver more sales. So okay, the last question. This was certainly one of Wilson's most successful campaigns. So what's next?
So that's a huge question. We don't really know yet. We had a bridge year. So what's next for us is 2023. We didn't start yet strategic planning. So hopefully another great success, but all in the making.
Well, that's it. And I'm expecting you to sleep well tonight and wake up with some extraordinary ideas that you're just going to have to figure out how to execute.
Exactly.
Good.
Oh my goodness, Gabrielle, it's a pleasure. Alex, it's a pleasure. You're both wonderful, and it's nice to know that there's women out there who are very passionate about bugs.
We love it. We just love it. Thanks. It was a pleasure as well.
All right. Hope to talk to you soon about what happens next. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The Internationalist focuses on the continual reinvention of marketing by highlighting inspirational marketers around the world and their ideas as they move the industry forward. Internationalist Marketing TV shares these perspectives through interviews and personal stories.